have more than 100 newsletter subscribers, and 17% of those owners. And our full website will launch this fall. Very exciting. So to be honest with you guys, that there's not a ton of research done on digital inclusion and news. So everything that I'm going to talk about here, it's really an experiment. There's not a lot of information, but our research tells us that 91% of Kansas and Missouri news consumers are accessing local news through their phones. But we're really curious about this group of smartphone-only news consumers, people who aren't accessing the news through others, a little bit different. They tend to come low-income households. They tend to access the internet just as frequently as multi-device users. They have less frequent access to the news, especially when traveling or outside. They're more likely to use social media for the news as opposed to sites and apps. And they engage in more participatory activities such as seeing and liking a news story over sharing it or commenting on it. And this is the thing that really interests us. They're more likely to believe social media can help distinguish fact from fiction. We're really concerned about media literacy and helping people understand what is the truth. So this is the solution we're envisioning. We wanted to acknowledge the success that local governments have had in text messaging and similar programs, out to people who might not have regular access to a personal computer, and see if we could recreate that success for local news. All Kansasians to be equipped with information and avenues to contribute to their communities. And these smartphone consumers need a trusted news source even when they're away from their Wi-Fi. And as journalists, we need to engage two-way conversation. So we want to engage diverse perspectives to help us make decisions for our organization, for the journalism we produce. And the benefit here is that a more informed city means greater civic participation. There's a lot of research that shows when more people read the news, they vote more, and other measures of civic participation. Oops. So this is our little experiment. It's called Race Forward KC, and it's pretty simple. We text people news. So 5 times a week, we're seeing news updates to people who are seeing news updates to people who've signed up for this campaign. And it's a two-way street. So we send you news updates and little factoids, and the readers that receive this are already sending us news tips and questions for our newsroom, response, maybe a correction. So it's been really helpful. Our campaign is for 3 months. So we're less than a month into this campaign. And we started with the topic of racial justice. And that was, we kind of looked around at what different models text messaging the news campaign might look like. And we liked the idea of picking something that was content driven because we're such a small team. And we want to show our commitment to covering racial justice in Kansas City, that we're not going to just move on too quickly, that this is a story that we need to commit to an ongoing way. And the project is supported by Subtext, which is a text messaging tool that focuses on news operations. So they do operations like BuzzFeed, USA Today, Flashy newspapers. And you all can sign up today. So I will make sure we get that link in that. This is our ask to you all, and I sincerely hope you will take me up on this. Any insights you have on the community that we can design for, where it's great if our regular readers can make use of this tool, but we're really interested in reaching some of those vulnerable communities and making sure that we get in front of people who are primarily accessing news through their smartphones. If you have ideas for similar programs that might already exist, we should be tapping into, please do let us know. If I can talk you into sharing Race Forward KC in your communications, I'd love to talk to you about that. It would be a big help. And then your feedback would be super helpful. So like I mentioned, we're piloting this program right now. We're committed to 3 months. We'll continue this program if we can show that we're making meaningful progress towards reaching those local communities. Thank you.
Jennifer, thanks so much. I think it's really pertinent that you just shared with us, particularly the information about the experiment using subtext followed the update from the Kansas City Public Library, because so many people in our target communities have relied on the library. And now that it's been closed for so long, I'm certainly imagining the library would be a perfect partner to utilize this text experiment to further spread the news in ways that are opening and offering more diverse services to people. Just because, as you mentioned, it's such a it comes across such a unique and relevant tool to get messages out to people who typically only rely on their smartphones, and start to broaden their sensitivity to other types of media that they can rely on. So it's really exciting, and thanks for sharing. And please, everyone, look on the chat board, because Dave Lacrone has posted a couple of critical links both to the beacon and to the subtext tool. And if you have questions for Jennifer, please post them there on the chat, and we'll make sure, Jennifer, to get back to you as those questions come in. So thank you again. Great update.
Thank you.
And so I want to move on, just to keep us on track with our agenda. We have two topics that we want to hear from the City of Kansas City, Missouri. And we're going to start with Bo Williams, who's going to share with us some information about how digital inclusion intersects with the major planning work that goes on for the long range plan for Kansas City, and ways that just in the past few years, of course, we've seen the City Council several years ago pass the Digital Act Strategic Plan that Rick Usher and McLean Bryant and others had so much a part of, and now just very recently we got a new resolution that the City Council has passed in terms of a pledge to try to achieve 100% connectivity of Kansas City households. So with the growing importance of digital inclusion in the work that the city does, I think what we're about to hear from Bo and the work on the city plan and just how digital inclusion intersects with that is something we've been looking forward to hearing. And Bo, thanks for joining us. I know you've got some material you're going to share here on the screen share. So welcome, Bill Williams.
Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to make this presentation. Can you all hear me okay? Yep, we're good. Okay. So again, we're here today because the City of Kansas City is kicking off an update comprehensive plan. This is a plan that guides policy decisions, investment decisions that the city will make over the next 2 decades. The last time that we did this comprehensive plan process was back in 1997. Some of you may be familiar with or have participated in the development of Focus Kansas City plan. That's current comp plan. Was adopted in 97, and it's 23 years old now. So it's kind of time to readdress that, given the issues we're talking about today, which were less prevalent in 97. We need to make sure that the plan we've got for the city is addressing the issues that we're facing right now and that we will face over the next 10 to 20 years. So with me today also, I should mention quickly, is Morgan Pemberton. She's on our city planning plan team as well, and she'll be contributing as needed as well. So again, the name of this new comprehensive plan is the AC Spirit Playbook. We are just kind of getting underway. We started in May. We had planned on starting much earlier than that, but COVID kind of derailed our entire public engagement plan. So we had to scramble and completely reevaluate the way we were going to approach this. So, and I'll talk to more of this in a moment, but it's really kicked us into a virtual only format for the moment, since we're not doing any in-person meetings, which makes issues of the digital divide more prevalent for us. So we're trying to figure out ways to reach people that may not be as connected, at least until we can get out and meet with them in person. So we're exploring a few strategies related to that. So part of the reason for the presentation today is to talk through or make you aware primarily of what's going on, encourage you to get involved. We wouldn't mind hearing some ideas about how we can, while we're in a virtual only environment, how we can begin to reach the maximum amount of people. And then beyond that, we'd like this group to think about, and maybe not today, but maybe at a later meeting, I'd like to have a conversation with you about what the plan should say about digital equity and digital inclusion. We had a good phone call with Rick Usher the other day, and we got a lot of good ideas and background from him, and we'll continue to do that. We're happy to come back to this group at any point as well. We're developing the plan, both to give input and feedback on any drafts and things that we have going on. So with that, let me run through this presentation quickly, and we're happy to take any questions, comments. And place in the chat link to our playbook.kcmo.gov, which is the comp plan website. It's really in a public engagement, a gathering place, an online gathering place for that. We have a lot of online tools, polls, activities that people can do to give us input. Again, a comprehensive plan is basically a long-range 20-year plan for the city on how the city will develop and how we will prioritize projects and policies and where we will make investments and things like that. It'll address a wide range of issues from land use to transportation to housing, neighborhoods and livability and other economic development and other issues as well. And one thing through our conversation with Rick, it became apparent that digital equity and inclusion intersects so many of these issues, economic development, for instance. We can see our comprehensive plan addressing this issue in a lot of different ways. So we need to update the plan, as I said already, because the city's changed a lot since '97. It's surprising actually how much of the focus plan is still relevant and that we plan on carrying forward, honestly. But it does need to be revised and updated to address the issues facing, and hopefully that the predicting will fit in 20 years, between now and 20 years as well. So it's important right now that we hear from the public, and not just residents, but employees and visitors and students and business owners, property owners within the city. So we're really trying to have broad outreach, and it's really important to us that we hear, frankly, from as many area stakeholders as possible, just to get as much buy-in and consensus around issues as we can. Again, the focus plan was from '97. These are the 12 principles for policy. I show from focus. I show these are kind of the high-level policy guidance for focus, and we're kind of planning to use this as something of a starting point for this plan. We think a lot of the issues that you see listed here are still issues that are important today. So we don't see a need to reinvent although we do see a need to update and refresh these ideas and make sure they're representing these values. So in '97, focus was the only statewide plan that we had, and I think the team on focus felt a lot of pressure to do a lot of things. They had to cover a lot of ground because there just hadn't been a lot of planning work done at a citywide level. So it really was very broad, very, very comprehensive, and revolutionary. At the time, it won one award for the National Plan of the Year. In the urban planning field, it was kind of widely regarded as, one of the best plans that had been out in years. So, but since then, we've done a lot of citywide planning. This is kind of a sampling of all the citywide plans we have now. That may not have existed when focus was done. And so today's task is really more about pulling together all of these previous planning efforts, making sure they work together, making sure they're not contradicting each other. And so the new comp plan is really going to focus on being an umbrella that tries to unite all of these plans together. We've also done, over the last 10 or 15 years, a lot of area planning. We have the city divided into 18 areas. We have completed all 18, and we've updated 2 or 3 of them in that time span. So we'll continue to do this well, but we want to point out that we've done a lot of planning, and these area plans get to a high level of specificity for these different communities as well. We're not going to forget that, and we plan on carrying forward all of the recommendations and all the community input that went to the development of these area plans as we move forward. So the comp plan topics, this is sort of a draft list of what we think the comp plan will address. Things like housing policy, physical mobility, creative placemaking, sustainability and resiliency. So this is kind of a draft list of topics we continue to develop through public input over the next few months. The values on the right are really more like lenses. So things like equity are things that we'll use as a lens to all of the recommendations that we put into the plan. And again, that list of lenses and values is evolving as well. So this is kind of where we are right now. This is a 2-year process. We just started in May. We're really at a high level issue inventory right now. We want to get people's broad ideas and values and perceptions about the city. So you'll see on the website, the questions we're asking are kind of very high level at this point, but we will soon begin to drill down into very specific topics. We'll probably be developing some committees around specific topic areas as well. So we don't know what those are yet. We're going to spend about the next 5 or 6 months figuring out what those important topics are, and then we'll be hopefully forming some work groups or committees around those topics. So we'll keep you posted as to what those are. Right now, we're kind of focused on outreach and engagement. So we're really trying to raise awareness about the plan. We're also trying to make engagement opportunities while we're doing it. Engagement is not secondary, but really primary purpose, I guess, right now really is to get the word out, to build awareness, to get people pointed to the website and registered so that we can reach out. And doing these kinds of presentations just to familiarize people with the project. But we do have a tremendous amount of engagement opportunities on our website already, and I encourage everyone here to go. We really would appreciate everyone's input about the future of Kansas City. So what we've done so far, we launched playbook.kcmo.gov, which is our online engagement, a central gathering place. We've contacted thousands of people through email and social media. We've presented at many virtual meetings like this, talking to hundreds of people. It's continuing to improve and refine our approach given kind of the limited capacity we have right now as in a virtual only setting. We're interested in hearing about additional ways that we can reach out to the community in the current pandemic situation. We're also really focused right now on thinking about what groups are unrepresented in this process and how we can reach them. So we're exploring a number of different tactics related to that. We're getting ready to hire. In fact, an RFP will be going out early next week for a public engagement contractor for this process. We're going to hire someone that will help us and hopefully that has some expertise in reaching these underrepresented populations as well. So just a little bit about our branding quickly. It's all based on this Norman Rockwell painting you see on the left, representing the resiliency of Kansas City and rebuilding after the 1951 flood. So we kind of modernized that image and branded it for our project. And the idea is we like to see Kansas City sort of roll up their sleeves and think about how we can plan for the development of our city over the next 20 years. So how you can help, these are some obvious ways is to go to our website, sign up, participate in our polls and questionnaires and our activities. If you have any kind of email lists or ability to help us share project information or direct people to the website, we appreciate that as well. And lastly, we want to hear from you about whatever issues are important to you. Obviously, digital inclusion and equity would be probably at the top of that list. These are our 5 big questions. I won't go through that in too much detail. Again, they're very general about how we can improve Kansas City, what you like, what you don't like, what you've seen in other cities that you think we should do here. That's kind of what we're focused on right now. But again, we'll be getting far more specific very soon. So again, this is our email and website. The playbook at kcmo.org is an email you can reach us, or my email and Morgan's email is there at the bottom. Please, everyone go to playbook.kcmo.gov if you haven't already, and register and take part in all of our old questionnaires. And then with that, I thought if we have time, I don't know what your timeline looks like. We appreciate any thoughts you have about ways during this public engagement process we can begin to address digital equity issues for people, and then any thoughts you have about what we can say in a comprehensive plan to help address this issue is appreciated, and realizing that we can come back and have a broader, longer conversation about that issue specifically. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Well, thanks so much, both and Morgan, for joining us. And I just want to remind coalition members who are on this call, and those of you who colleagues who normally join us here today, these themes of outreach and engagement that you shared with us in the presentation very closely mirror 2 of the 4 priority areas that the Kansas Coalition for Digital Inclusion has been committed to for the last 4 years, raising awareness, broadening participation in particular. So I think it is incumbent upon all of us in the coalition to take seriously what you've asked us to do. And it's really, like your questions say, it's about all the reasons we love Kansas City and what input that we have to make sure that this comprehensive plan reflects all input. It kind of reminds me of something, Jennifer, going back to your talk at the Beacon, that I wanted to point out. I know several members of your board, probably your board president, better than all the others. And I can't think of anyone more reflective of passionate interest in Kansas City and being connected in outreach and engagement than David and Andre Davis and a number of your other board members. So again, the sequence of everything we've heard so far this morning, I think, plays really nicely around this idea of, what is that keeps us all so passionate about our city, and how digital inclusion and the ability to share information with each other and do that outreach and engagement work can really make sure that the right input is being used in the future development of our city. So please, anyone, if you do have questions, we are going to make time here at the end, so we can go circle back to Bo and Morgan and Jennifer and Andy. But now we wanted to make sure to carve out time for our steering council member, Rick Scher, who has another super exciting update on work happening at the city as it pertains to the recent city council resolutions and our city's leadership stake in driving for a full connectivity of our households. Rick Usher, Assistant City Manager, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Bo. I was around in that focus initiative, and it was a huge citywide effort. So what I'm missing about that were the meetings that took place. And I say I'm missing it. It is strange that I would miss like 3-hour meetings 2 or 3 times a week after hours. But you got to see a lot of people. I'm happy to see everybody here, but I'm get a little shell shocked here with this situation. The playbook, though, it does play well with the digital equity strategic plan, and as Bo discussed, we've had a long discussion with his team, so we're hoping to during those, they do like a weekly poll. And so maybe there's some questions thrown in there about digital equity and inclusion. And what'll be interesting now is so many more people have like direct experience with distance learning and remote work that we'll get some more input that way. This, let's see, I'm going to screen share that. As Tom said, the council recently uh, passed a resolution directing the city manager to form public-private partnerships to essentially close the digital divide. And this is the city page go to just track the progress of this effort. We can put a link in the chat, but also the page that the Digital Equity Strategic Plan that Tom talked about is posted on. And just other information here. This is the link to the resolution. This is the video presentation that we gave to city committee, that the Transportation Operations Infrastructure Committee that recommended to the full council to pass the resolution. And then these are videos from last week's, I guess earlier this week's video sessions with potential suppliers, potential partners on the digital equity or digital inclusion services RFQ. So where we are right now is trying to ensure that we're drafting an RFQ that fully addresses the needs and concerns of the community. And again, like Bo was talking about, and especially the digital equity plan, that's extremely difficult to do right now when what you want to do is have meetings with people who are in the digital divide. So I'm really relying on folks in this organization that having those experiences today. I know, Tom, that your folks are out there every day delivering computers and devices to residents that are trying to get connected to the internet. So we are trying to share this in as many ways as possible. This is a Google Doc, and so what we're doing is putting this draft RFQ out for community comment and really though content suggestion. And if you've used Google Docs, we want you to use suggesting mode so that we can see, who's adding comments and what text is being added. You can track that in other ways on Google Docs. It's just easier if you're using the suggesting mode, and then we can get some sidebar conversations going as well. For links to last week's meetings, but essentially the RFQ or the program has three major components, similar to the conversation of the three-legged stool, the digital divide or of digital inclusion. So the first is access to the internet. And what we know in Kansas City is, unlike a lot of digital inclusion conversations where the infrastructure doesn't exist, or the internet service provider has a monopoly and is providing extremely low, poor quality services, we have a very competitive market in Kansas City. We've got multiple internet service providers with speeds of up to gigabit offered by a number of providers. And we know that internet services run through the backyard of pretty much everybody in Kansas City, Missouri. 94% of residents, by some evaluations we've done, have the services available. What we know is it's the affordability side of it that's preventing residents from subscribing to internet services. And overall, citywide, that number is 17% of our residents are not subscribing to internet services. But in the 3rd city council district and the 5th city council district, that's 32% of our residents in the 3rd district and 25% of our residents in the 5th district. And these are, some of the most economically distressed neighborhoods in Kansas City. So we've listed, some content here of, how we know these things and what this is a map that Exact created a few years ago that you can move around and shows you by census tract the fastest advertised speeds by internet provider. I also there's a nice site that Broadband Now has. You can put your zip code in, you answer a few questions about what you do on the internet, how many people in your household are online at one time, and then it shows you providers available to you that provide speeds that maybe you need for that service. So the first part of the RFQ is really going to be this challenge to internet service providers and wireless providers to come back to us and say that, they know that they have these services available throughout the city, and they know that we have a digital divide that's based on affordability. And we also know, though, there are portions of the city with 322 square miles that are more like the rural broadband divide where the infrastructure is not available. Since this RFQ was discussed with City Council, I've had a few email and phone call residents on the periphery of the city limits that don't have reliable internet access because it hasn't been commercially feasible for internet service providers to get to them. So the challenge will be for them to come back and say, this is how we would propose to bring in services to every household in Kansas City and for every small business. We have a small business component here. That we know there are small businesses in the digital divide that have had to close, that were able to pivot to an online platform. We're able to put employees in remote work at this time. So we're trying to have these providers come back and say, this is how we would propose to roll this out throughout the city. And this is how we will make our free and low cost programs available to low income residents and small business owners. If you've tried to look at how to subscribe to some of the free and low cost programs, it's cumbersome. It's difficult and especially for, I would say, low income residents that, first of all, don't have internet access to be able to go to a site and figure out what forms to download, how to apply, schedule appointments. We're asking through this RFQ that internet service providers agree to post all of these offerings in an easily accessible mobile app so that a resident could, if you're a SNAP recipient and say get the free service or $5, $10 service that AT&T provides, you could do all that through your smartphone, taking photos, uploading photos of whatever documentation you might have to provide. We are looking at a website. I don't know if everyone's familiar with this. We emailed it a couple of times. The Broadband Resource Rail. Take a look at the Missouri Broadband Resource Rail, and if you're a coalition member, there are services that you might have that you can send them information and they'll post that in that resource rail. We have PCs for People Kansas City is posted there. I know our Equity Strategic Plan is posted there. So a second component is access to computers, tablets, laptops, smartphones, related hardware. I've highlighted the digital upcycling program that the city has, PCs for People, Kansas City. We'll be challenging major employers and other local governments in the region to join us in that program.